Hello, my fellow minor league nerds, and welcome to part 2 of our look at the history of professional baseball in Anderson, South Carolina. If you've not watched part 1 yet, which covers from 1907 to 1954, I would recommend doing that before watching part 2. In this episode, we're going to cover the history from 1970 through 1973. So sit back, relax, and let's learn some history. After a 16-year absence, minor league baseball returned to Anderson, South Carolina in 1970. The return was made possible by the construction of a brand new $250,000 ballpark named Anderson Memorial Stadium, which was financed by the American Legion. The Western Carolinas League had played as a 6-team circuit in 1969 and planned on adding 2 more teams in 1970. One in Anderson, and one in Sumter. But before they could join, the Statesville Indians, who shifted from Monroe during the 1969 season, and the Shelby Senators both folded, dashing any hopes of becoming an 8-team league. The team in Anderson became the Anderson Senators, affiliating with the Washington Senators, while the other team in Sumter became the Sumter Indians. The owner and general manager of the Anderson Senators was Ed Grasso, who at the age of 30 billed himself in the team's program as the youngest owner in professional sports, though this may not have been true. He also claimed that he hit .471 with the non-existent Rock Hill Club of the Western Carolinas League in 1962, as well as to have played with the Double-A Charlotte Hornets of the Southern League, though there are no records of anyone with that name playing professional baseball. Like their parent club, the Anderson Senators posted a losing record in both 1970 and 1971, going 61-69 and 55-56. 4 members of the team would eventually make it to the major leagues. They were catcher and infielder Dave Cricione, who played for them in 1970 and 1971. He led the Western Carolinas League in home runs with 25 in 1971. He wouldn't make his MLB debut until 1977, when he played 7 games for the Baltimore Orioles. His career highlight was a walk-off home run against the Milwaukee Brewers on July 25, 1977. Pitcher Steve Foucault, who also played in Anderson in 1970 and 1971, would make his debut for the Texas Rangers in 1973, starting 277 games for the Rangers, Detroit Tigers, and Kansas City Royals during his 6-year big league career. Pitcher Rick Waits, who played in Anderson in 1970, would have the longest career of the 4, making his debut in 1973 with the Texas Rangers, who were the Senators until moving to Arlington for the 1972 season. He would play parts of 12 seasons with the Rangers, Cleveland Indians, and Milwaukee Brewers. Outfielder and first baseman Bob Jones played for Anderson in 1971, making his big league debut with the Texas Rangers at the end of the 1974 season. He was originally drafted by Washington in 1967, playing 3 minor league seasons before leaving for a 14-month tour of Vietnam that caused him to miss the entire 1970 season. After suffering permanent hearing loss in his right ear and being awarded a Bronze Star, which he didn't officially receive until September 11, 2014, during a ceremony at Globe Life Park while serving as an assistant hitting coach for the Texas Rangers, he reported to Anderson for the 1971 season, hitting .321 with 23 homers and 77 RBIs. In their first season, the team drew an insane number of fans, with 184,212 coming out to cheer on the Senators. That was 135,564 higher than the next team, the Greenwood Braves. In 1971, that number dropped to only 50,412, but they were still the highest drawing team in the league. Team owner Ed Grasso fell into heavy debt and ran out of money following the 1971 season and was forced to relinquish the club. The team's bus driver, Bobby Kerr, purchased the ball club, keeping it in Anderson, South Carolina for the 1972 season. For that season, they became a co-op club after the Washington Senators ended the affiliation. The co-op status, which is no longer used in MILB, was bestowed upon minor league clubs that were unwanted by major league organizations. They would have to sign their own players or accept loan ones from major league ball clubs. The Anderson team would accept players from 8 different MLB teams, with the most being sent by the San Francisco Giants, which led to the team becoming the Anderson Giants, even though they weren't affiliated. As was typical with most co-op clubs, the Giants did not have a successful season, finishing 51 and 81 in what would be their only season. They were managed by former major leaguer Max Lanier in what would be his last season leading a ball club. 2 pitchers from the team would see playing time in MLB. Luis Quintana, one of the players loaned by San Francisco, and who led the Anderson Giants with 7 wins, would make 22 appearances with the California Angels in 1974 and 1975, playing in the minors until 1983. The other was Jim Wright, who was sent by Boston. He would play in 35 games for the Red Sox in 1978 and 1979. Before the start of the 1973 season, the club would become an affiliate once again, this time teaming with the Detroit Tigers and adopting their parent club's name, becoming the Anderson Tigers. Like the previous 2 teams, they did not have a successful season, finishing 54 and 73. But unlike the Giants and the second season of the Senators, the Anderson Tigers actually saw an attendance increase for their lone season. Only 3 players from Anderson ever saw playing time in the majors. Bob Kaiser, who was drafted by the Cleveland Indians in 1968, making his big league debut for them in 1971, pitching 5 games. After that season, he would spend 4 more seasons pitching in the minors with 10 different teams, including 5 appearances with the 1973 Anderson Tigers. Outfielder Dan Gonzalez, who hit .290 in 102 games for the Anderson Tigers, would see 25 at-bats over 2 seasons with the Detroit Tigers in 1979 and 1980. 19-year-old George Capizzello, who went 9-5 with a 2.85 ERA in 117 innings for the Anderson Tigers, would make his big league debut for the Detroit Tigers as a 27-year-old in 1981 when he made 18 appearances. He would make 17 more out of the bullpen with the Houston Astros in 1982, ending his playing career in the minors in 1984. After that one season, the Tigers ended their affiliation in Anderson. If they had stayed affiliated with Detroit, they would have been part of the development of several future Tigers legends, several of whom formed the backbone of the team's 1984 World Series championship. Well, my fellow minor league nerds, that'll do it for part 2 of our look at the history of professional baseball in Anderson, South Carolina. Part 3 will be released in a few days. So until then, stay safe, and remember to always support minor league baseball and never stop learning about minor league baseball history.
This podcast is part of the Curved Brim Media Network. Here are some of the other members of Curved Brim Media.
Hi, this is Ed Rivera of the Data Chronicles. Join me as I interview people just like you and players, coaches, GMs on the path that led you to become a fan of the sport.
I'm Paul Caputo, and on the Baseball by Design podcast, I talk to minor league baseball teams, designers, and other super interesting people about what these minor league baseball logos mean, and I talk a little bit about ice cream helmets.
What's up, Bucketheads? I'm Anna DiTomaso, and each week on the Baseball Bucket List podcast, I speak with a different fan about their favorite baseball memories, what the game means to them, and what's left to check off on their baseball bucket list.
Hey everyone, it's Eric from the great state of Kansas.
This is Johnny from the New Orleans Baby Cakes Memorial Museum.
And we are the Earn Fun Average podcast,
where we talk to a variety of guests about their love of baseball and have fun doing it.
America, lower your standards.
Average is what we do best.
This is Patrick
and Corey
of BaseballMapper.com, and we have made an interactive map to help highlight all baseball teams from the majors down to collegiate summer leagues.
We want to bring you closer to baseball. So get on the site and find a team near you today.
Hey guys, this is Patrick Larson from the Minor League Baseball Hat History Series. And in every episode, I go through the history of minor league teams through my personal collection of hats. You can find me on Twitter at PatLarson1. I hope you guys enjoy.
Learn more about Curve Brim Media at curvebremmedia.com.